Let's talk about the moms that are implementing a pump to return to work. I think that including a pump, especially if you're gonna be, let's say 8 hours to 10 hours away from baby, is going to be super useful with meeting your breastfeeding goals. If you wanted to feed your baby for 1, 2, 3 years, implementing a pump is what's really gonna help you meet those goals. And so when you are away from baby and we're ready to return to work, there are some tools that are gonna make our lives so much easier as it pertains to being pumping moms. And so one of those tools that I would like to recommend is a hands-free pumping bra. So it's gonna be a bra that you're able to sit both your flanges and not have to hold them the entire time. I recommend that throughout your journey, but definitely when you return to work to make those sessions quick and efficient. Another tool that I would recommend is having lubricant for your flanges. So you can use a pumping spray. This one is from Legendary Milk, or you can use your nipple balm that you have been using and use it to lubricate either your flanges or your nipples right before pumping to make it that much more comfortable with you having to pump more frequently. So if you are away from your baby, let's say you work 8 hours, you might have to pump 3 to 4 times in that time span away from the baby. So having lubricant is gonna make that process a little bit more comfortable. So it's important to note that when maternity leave is over and you are preparing to return to work, that you do reach out to your organization or your company and let them know that you expect to breastfeed while at work. We recently have this law passed that's called the Pump Act, and it's rights for moms to breastfeed while they're at work. And we're gonna talk a little bit about what those rights are. Your organization or your company must provide a private room for you to pump in, which means that you are not required to pump in a bathroom. It's very unsanitary, but a private room that is free of windows. You do have to have a designated space to store your milk, and you must be given whatever time you need to pump. So if you are a mom that needs to pump for 20, 30 minutes every 3 hours, that time has to be allotted to you. You do have the right to do that. So definitely have those conversations with your company before returning to work, so those things are in place for you and it's seamless with continuing your breastfeeding journey. Now let's talk about storing your milk. So the rule of thumb that I like to use is called the 4-4-4 rule, which is 4 hours on the counter, which means I just recently expressed milk, but I know my baby's gonna wake up in an hour or so I'm gonna leave it on the counter, and when my baby wakes up, I can give my baby the milk. Mom likes to do this because it's still in the temperature that the baby might like, as opposed to putting it in the fridge and having to reheat it afterwards. If you're not gonna use it within 4 hours, is to put it in the fridge. And it can stay in the fridge for up to 4 days. So if you are storing ounces of milk throughout the day, you can pull them together for that day and use it the next day for your baby. This is also helpful for moms that are pumping when they're at work and they're just storing it in one container and they want to get home and use it later. They have up to 4 days in the fridge to use it. The next set of rules will be 4 to 6 months in the freezer, and I would say 4 to 6 months in your home freezer. If you're also using your freezer for food, just being mindful of how often we open and close it, it changes the temperature in there. So I say 4 to 6 months. If you want it to last longer than 6 months, milk can last up to 12 months in a deep freezer. And that's because that deep freezer is dedicated to just breast milk, so you're probably opening it less often. And so when you're storing breast milk, you want to store it in the increments that your baby feeds. The reason is, most moms, they say this bag holds 7 ounces, but my baby only drinks 3 ounces at a time, but I'm gonna fill it to like save on bags. But then when we defrost the milk, there's but so much time we have to use the contents of that milk, depending on the method in which we use to defrost it. So just being mindful of that, and so that you're not wasting your breast milk, you want to freeze in the increments. Even though it holds up to 7, I would only recommend 3 ounces if your baby's drinking 3 ounces at a time. So that way when you defrost the milk, if you're defrosting, let's say by using warm water method where you let your breast milk sit in a pool of warm water, once it's defrosted, you want to use it within 2 hours of defrosting to feed your baby. So being mindful of that when you are freezing your milk.